happening? It's me, the guy who hosts the show. Let's see if we remember how to do this, shall we? It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and we are live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. So it's a big day, obviously, as we are going to talk about two mega stories, one that we have been waiting on for 30 years and one that we have been, I would say, dreading for as long as we've known it was a possibility. The one that we are very excited about is the RFK Stadium bill has passed D.C. City Council. There is one more vote that is all but a formality that is coming in September, but this was the big one. This was the hurdle that they had to get over, and it has passed. 9-3 is the final tally. The Commanders are going to return to RFK Stadium. The deal initially negotiated by Mayor Muriel Bowser and the team after the land was freed from Congress in whatever that was, January, February, when that all went down. Actually, no, it was before that. It was December. And then signed before President Biden left office in January. And then ultimately has gone the negotiations between the city, a team the past couple months, modified over the last couple of days and weeks by the city council, has been voted on and passed. We will talk much more about that as we go, including a visit with the man who I think has been as on top of this as anyone. That is Mark Seagraves of NBC4. He was in the room today. He understands all of it, the amendments, the whole deal, all of that stuff. So we will get to that coming up in a little bit. But I want to start with Terry McLaurin and the trade requests last night. And coming up next, if you're not watching us on YouTube, I would say this would be a good day to pop on the stream because I'm going to add a visual element to the show to try to explain something that I think is really important, which is the math on this deal. Now, famously, this show and math only get along so well. So we'll see how that ultimately goes. But I do think that we can try and explain like why this is so difficult. And what I'm going to do is something that Anthony did for you. By the way, Anthony, hello. Nice to see you again, my friend.
What's up, man? Welcome back.
Thank you. I hate that we don't have like a catch up off the top here and like, oh, fun, lighthearted Friday. Nope, we have two mega stories. And by the way, we'll also at some point get into the Micah Parsons thing because, oh my God, the best defensive player maybe in football, one of the top two. It's either him or it's Myles Garrett. He requested a trade today and is apparently, according to Diana Rossini at The Athletic, said like he's ready to cut ties with the Cowboys. Is Micah Parsons about to up and leave training camp and say I'm never playing for the Cowboys again? Like, what the hell is going on there? That situation, I think, is far more serious than the McLaurin one. Not that the McLaurin one isn't, but we can get into that later as we go as well. But what I want to do is something, Anthony, that I actually did for you, because we were texting about this last night and this morning of what the Terry contract can actually look like, where everybody wins and where I think this is ultimately going to be headed. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't just start here. And that is like, this is really sad. There aren't many players in any sport, any athletes in any sport that have as much goodwill built up as Terry McLaurin had with Commanders fans. In part because I hope that most pro athletes never have the opportunity to build up as much goodwill as Terry did, because it involves a lot of losing and then the off the field stuff. The shining beacon that he has been on a mountain of poop for much of the last entirety of his career. 2019, he started. 2019 happened to be my last year on the beat. I remember it well. That season started, 0-5, 0-6, and Jay Gruden got fired. It didn't get much better from there. There was plenty of bickering between Bill Callahan and Kevin O'Connell. The defense was a nightmare. Quarterback mess. Like, it was a rough start. And you have this young kid who's just really good. And it was, day one of training camp. Like, you saw it, and you're just like, this kid's really good. Like, I don't think he's good for a rookie. Like, but let's see. And a kid that they drafted because he was the best special teams player in the draft, I still think has yet to play a snap of special teams, unless maybe he's been on a hands team end of game situation once or twice. but he was the best special teams player in the draft, and he's basically not played special teams his entire career because he's turned himself into one of the top 10 receivers in the league. And then you talk about who he is as a person and the character and how he represented himself, the truths that he was willing to tell at times, tough but fair, critical of others, but also critical of himself and owning his role in any struggles that have happened. Like, Terry's a different cat. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like, I have a lot of professional respect, admiration. I'm very lucky that I have a good working relationship with him, which is nothing more than like when I see him in the locker room after games, which is the extent that I get to cover the team these days based off of schedules. But I still go to games. I'm in the locker room, and Terry will give me time. And that's trust that I earned with him a long time ago, thankfully for me. But also the times like, a couple years ago, Eastern Motors, now infamous for where he had his last press conference. But like the first year he did it, it was him and Curtis Samuel and Antonio Gibson. And, Terry sat down in that room with me to record the interview, and we did the interview. And then we talked for like another 5-10 minutes just about life. And, I had just been married, and he wanted to hear all about my wedding. He was, I think at that point thinking about ultimately getting engaged himself, and like, obviously he did, and he got married this offseason. So like, I just see Terry as someone who, like, I see the human in Terry in such a major way. And I understand his frustration. And I also understand why the Commanders don't want to pay him what he's asking for. Because the market doesn't suggest that he's going to be worth it. And that's a really hard thing to hear if you're him. And you put in all this time, and you put in all this effort, and you built up all this equity, and to be then told by people that like genuinely respect you. I think that's hard too, is like, oh, if you respect me, you would just pay me. It's like, no. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. And that's both me sitting here. I don't think I'd be doing my job if I wasn't honest. And also, if you're Adam Peters, like, you have a responsibility to the organization. And I think I can make a pretty Terry heavy argument, and I can get him to $30 million like pretty easily per year. But also, what that $30 million looks like is part of what we're going to go into next. And certainly the DK number, like, and if he's asking for more than that, like, that's crazy for a guy who's over 30. There's no precedent for that. None at that position. And you can say, well, I've got less experience. Like, yeah, but like, I mean, anyone who's listening who's over 30 knows it's a little harder to wake up in the morning. Like, that part is not relative to NFL football. There's some relativity there for sure, but it's not enough to wipe it away. And so this is complicated, and both sides are very dug in. The chances are that they're going to meet in the middle somewhere, and we can get into why there's no chance that they're going to trade him next as well. So let's do that next. First, why there's basically no chance that he's going to get traded, demand or not. And two, realistically, what the final contract should look like, and what those numbers look like on paper. And again, if you're not watching us on YouTube now, and you have the option to, if you're driving home, I will do my best to explain the numbers on the radio. It's just going to be a lot of numbers, and there's only so much we can do. But I'm actually going to go into SpoTrack and build the contract. So I will be able to show you how the math gets done. And as reference, I've got the DK Metcalf contract pulled up, and I will show you why referencing that contract is just so incredibly silly. So we'll get to that next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, and always live as well on the free Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio. show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and we're on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. So the Commanders have received a trade request from Terry McLaurin, the star wide receiver who would like a new contract, is not getting nearly the new contract that he wants, and thus he is pretty not psyched about it. What I would like to do in a moment is show you why I think he's looking at the wrong thing and how the Commanders might be able to then lose a PR battle, but still ultimately do what they want to do and get him signed to a number that everyone can agree with. But first, I would just like to say this. I was not surprised by the trade request because it's the next logical step when you're at an impasse. You just keep applying pressure and trying to get something. You're trying to move, like it's the status quo, and sometimes you need to make a change in the situation, shake it up, even if you're not entirely sure what's going to happen. You do need to be careful what you wish for, but there is a reason why Terry did this. The Commanders trading Terry McLaurin would absolutely stun me. And it has some to do with the fact that that sentence would have to be true. The Washington Commanders trading Terry McLaurin, their franchise player, a guy who, I don't know if his number's going to go in the rafters a la, the guys who are getting retired, but he's certainly headed to the Ring of Fame. If he retired tomorrow, he's headed to the Ring of Fame. Nevertheless, if he can help them make another deep playoff run this year and hopefully for a couple more years to come. But what I think you have to realize is the Commanders are trying to win a Super Bowl this season, and the chances that they can do that without Terry McLaurin take an enormous hit. Like, their receiver room is built for him to be the number one, or for someone to be the number one wide receiver, with Deebo Samuel being his own category of gadget/excellent receiver, number 2, number 3 kind of slot outside mismatch weapon, right? Deebo's Deebo. And then guys like Noah Brown, good number 2 receiver. A guy like Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, like on down the list, those guys can do enough as rotational pieces. If all of a sudden Noah Brown is your quasi 1, having to play a bunch of X, and Deebo is then the focus of attention, and Luke and Jalen Lane are much more stretched as young players who are not ready for starting level repetitions at a high level, I know Jaden's amazing. He'd still have a really good year. You're just flatly not as dangerous. And for a team that is going to be probably offensively driven, you've already seen it in training camp. The defense has had a big head start. 1, because defenses are ahead of offense at this point in the calendar. And 2, because all they have to do is play man coverage, and they don't have a bunch of dudes who can get open. And you can double up Zach Ertz. You can double up Deebo a lot easier than when you have Terry. And now all of a sudden you got 3 dudes who can, 2.5. Deebo's not amazing against man coverage. Zach's outstanding. But you just need the weaponry. So it's okay, well, could they get anything back that could replace that? And the answer is no. If he makes his trade request in March and the Commanders are like, man, we are $10 million a year apart, or $8 million or $6 million, wherever we are, we don't think we're going to bridge that gap. You make the trade in March, now you can get a first-round pick back, or you can get a player back, and that player can go through your offseason program. He knows the playbook. He's the same as any other new acquisition or rookie. You do it now, and you're getting 2026 draft picks, which don't help you in 2025, or somehow you're probably getting a worse player, because if a team needs a wide receiver, what are they going to do? Give up a wide receiver? No. Maybe you could get a depth piece from somewhere that can do some semblance of something, and a team gets an upgrade and they give you a draft pick with it. But I'm telling you right now, if you're reading a bunch of stuff today from across the internet of people who cover NFL trades, the NFL world would be shocked if they got a first for Terry McLaurin, because if you're not getting at least a first round pick, why are you even considering it? Nevertheless, what I just said about tanking your 2025 season, and then you have to have a team that is willing to give up, let's say it's a first, and pay Terry $30+ million, because he's not going to go to a new team and take 27. So the chances of this trade happening are very, very slim, which leads us to the contract, which leads us to a fancier screen. Anthony, now the people can see what you see as well, which is the DK Metcalf contract. So this is the DK contract, which up in the contract terms, you see 4 years, $132 million, which means the average over that 4 years is $33 million. What I want you to pay attention to, though, is the numbers to the right, signing bonus, and then it says guaranteed at signing $60 million, total guaranteed, which is slightly off the screen, at $60 million. And then you start to go down and scroll into the details, and this is why Terry referencing the DK contract at $33 million a year is ridiculous. So DK, his cap number this year is actually very small. It's just an $11 million cap hit. There is basically no way the Commanders can do that for this year, nor do they need to. That's the good news. I would actually, if I were them and I was trying to mess with some of the guarantees and move them around, I might front roll it a little bit because I have the money this year. And where the Steelers were like, we know we're going to have to pay TJ Watt and give him a bunch of new money, but you're still going to give him a bunch of cash up front. So that's a Josh Harris problem, not an Adam Peters problem. But Terry has, with the extension, some money that is already $5.6 million that's already on the books. So you could do a super low base salary and bring his cap number down this year, but I don't know if they would necessarily need to. But point being, he got this $60 million, $30 million in signing bonus, and then $5 million in base salary in 2025, $25 million in 2026. That was guaranteed at signing. So that's $30 million in base salary over the first 2 years of the contract and a $30 million signing bonus. So that winds up being a 2-year, $60 million contract that the Steelers can then get out of after the 2026 season with just $18 million in dead cap money. That's it. So if they really want to get out after 2, they can. In 2027, if they want to take another year out of it, DK will count 32 against the cap that year and then just be $12 million in dead cap money after that. So when you take that $11 million cap hit in year 1 and then average it out with the $31 million in 2026 or put it all together for 2027, you're looking at roughly a 28, and you add in dead cap money as well. You're looking at roughly, realistically, a 3-year, $28 million contract, or a 3-year, 28 AAV contract. That's very different than 33. Well, then why does it say 33? Because in the final year of the deal in 2029, when DK Metcalf is going to be 32 years old, he is scheduled to make $30 million in base salary and have a cap hit of $41.5 million. I wouldn't bet my life or my house or anything else on him not getting that, but I would bet a lot of money feeling like I would probably get a pretty decent return. And so that last year inflates the value of that AAV, which did beg the question for me. If we go to a Terry McLaurin extension, which I've now opened as a potential here, could they just do that for Terry? If the getting to $30 million is so important to him, and the 33 is harder because I don't think they want to go that many years. But if getting to that 33 number is so important, or that 30 number is so important for Terry, and his agent's playing hardball right now at 33 or 34 to get above DK, but realistically, it's like, hey man, you're about to be 30 years old. Let's just get you to 30. What could that look like? Because I'll tell you right now, this is where I do take Terry's side of it, if you will. If this is all cosmetic anyway, and you can get what you want if you're Adam, and then you lose the PR battle because you gave him $30 million, but it makes him sign the deal, I'm not going to let $1 million per year of fake money get in the way of me getting this contract done. That's me. Adam might not, he's got to think about future contracts he's going to sign. He's got to think about, what he's dealing with other general managers and trade talks, and they're going to be probably not psyched about this, especially after the Broncos GM just did him a huge favor with the Cortland Sutton deal at 23. But let's play the game. So on this left side, I have already set it up to we're going to sign an extension. It's going to be 3 years, and the value is going to be $90 million. So that gets us to, Anthony, how many $1 million per year?
You said 2 for 90?
I said 3 for 90.
Oh, 30.
Thank you. All right. That was not meant to be a trick question. We're going to do a signing bonus of $25 million. Must be nice. So right now we're sitting at practical guarantees and guaranteed at signing, $25 million. Roster bonuses, we're not going to mess with them for right now. Terry's current contract has them. We're not going to mess with workout bonuses, although his current contract has them. We're just going to worry about the base salary. And if you want to make some of this base salary roster bonuses, there's ways we can funge it around, but this is going to be the simplest way to do this. So then we have the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add one void year to the end of this, which is going to take the signing bonus proration down from, what was it? 6.25 million per year, 6.25 over 4 years, because we added 6.25 to the first 2 years of the deal where there's already money allocated to the Commander's cap, and 2027 and 2028, the new years on it. I'm going to add one more year to bring those numbers down a little bit, and we're just going to assume that we're probably fine with that number going into the 2029 season, because I don't think at that point the big numbers for Jaden will have hit yet. But if you want to do it without that, fine. So now we just need to allocate this base salary money. And we're going to also do this in a way that we hope that Terry McLaurin is happy with the numbers. So if we go $10 million in the first year and it's guaranteed at signing, we're now sitting at $35 million at signing, guaranteed. And that's $35 million of new money for Terry McLaurin. That should make him quite happy. Then we're going to go $10 million in year 2, which again keeps his cap hit around $20.6 million. And we'll go ahead and guarantee that at signing as well. So now we have $20 million of the 84 that we needed to allocate done. So then in 2027, let's say he gets, and actually let's do this. Let's do 15 next year. We can afford maybe a little bit more next year. And again, we're going to guarantee that at signing. So now we've gotten Terry to $50 million guaranteed at signing and $50 million in practical guarantees. And now we need to split up the remaining $59 million. So we'll do that with, if we do $20 million in year 3, and we're not going to guarantee that, and 2028, that leaves us 39,649. Oh my God, how much? I couldn't type fast enough. We need 1,000, so let's do 1,000 there. And then that's probably a little bit too much to put into that final year. So let's put an extra 12 million there. We'll take that's now down to 7, and we'll put an extra 2 million there, and then that's down to 5. And now we have, we're 100 short, so that becomes 5. Oh, no. Spotrac, you're killing me. 35650. 3565000. Now we've got all the money allocated. Hooray. This is a simple version of it. But now we have $22 million this year, 27 next year, 25 in year 3. We have a $40 million cap hit in 2028 that Terry is never going to see because he's not going to make $35 million in the final year of his contract. But hey, it's 3 years, $90 million of an extension. We got it done. But realistically here, he's somewhere closer to the DK 27, 28. And again, I did this rather haphazardly very quickly, but that's how you do it. If Terry wants his own DK deal and he wants to put a bunch of money in the final year where he's never going to see it, and we can fight this battle again when he's 33 and probably his production has fallen off, and you want to extend him then, or you do what they did to Andrew Wiley and just say, hey, man, we can either let you go or you can take a pay cut. That's how you do it.
It's a cruel business, man.
But understanding that math is really important.
Yes. It does get the job done as well.
And that's the thing that is, I think is missing in this. It just doesn't feel like Terry is getting, I don't know whether it's getting the best advice, whether he wants a contract like this. I can understand why the Commanders don't want to do this. If I was him, by the way, I'm not interested in this at all. I'm like, I would rather have something where can we guarantee we have $20 million there. Like, let's bring that down. Let's get me $5 million guaranteed of that third year salary. So $5 million guaranteed there of the $20 million in year 3, and let's actually take some of this down. I don't necessarily want that hanging over year 4. Like, I care more about the guarantees number than I do, and beating DK there, than I do the total average annual value number that my agent gets to sell on a headline when he texts Adam Schefter and says, we signed a blank year, blank dollar deal. I care about guarantees. That's what I would want.
If you're Terry.
If I'm Terry.
Yeah.
Because of course I would want that. Why wouldn't I want that? Why wouldn't I want the most money guaranteed? And I think that's where, like, hey, fine, let's do a 2-year 60. Here's the other part, though. And here's where Terry, I know we're going long here, comes back from vacation, turns into clock monster. It'd be too hard for me to do all this here in the sheet. But I think that the other thing that, from a leverage standpoint, that is really important to point out is he's under contract for this year as is, right? And that number is already established. It's like, what is it, like 25 million cap hit, blah, 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 right? But when you look at the franchise tag for next year, it's scheduled to be about 30.4, and it could go up a little bit depending on if he makes the Pro Bowl, and there's some other like escalators in that. But if I'm the team, why would I give you more than that? Like, if I can just have you play out the season, know that you're not going to sit out games because you're not going to forfeit millions of dollars of game checks. And if you sit out, and by the way, like, now that he's reported, like, their medical staff is looking at his ankle. And so if they think that he's playing the ankle coy, and it's like, oh, my ankle hurts, like, that could get really, really messy. And I think it involves like grievances and the whole deal. They could suspend him for conduct detrimental to the team and not pay him, depending on how that goes. Like, there's that gets really ugly. And I'd want to talk to someone who's a little more looped in on the current versions of those rules. But like, putting the fake ankle injury, like a real ankle injury or ankle knock or whatever he's got now, to the side, and saying that he's going to sit out games. That's not going to happen, right? It's just too much money to give up. Ezekiel Elliott did it for 2 games and then was like, I'm done with this. Although Jerry gave in because Jerry's the worst negotiator on the planet, or at least in the NFL. But if you're Terry and you're not going to do that and you play out this season, then they franchise tag you. You're still not getting 34, 33, 32. So taking something that guarantees you 28 per year over multiple years, including a huge influx of new cash right now, is probably the prudent decision from a financial leverage standpoint. So that's kind of where this is, and that's a harsh reality for Terry, but like, that's the contract he signed a bunch of years ago. He was lucky that he was able to get certain stuff in that deal because Dan Snyder wanted to win, because he was in the middle of a bunch of, what he was in the middle of. And so it was like, get the deal done. And Terry's agent was able to get a good deal done. But like, on the tail end of it, now you're stuck in this predicament. And so it's a lot of this is just math. And how fake you want the math to be in terms of how much money do you want non-guaranteed on your contract is kind of up to Adam Peters. And if I was Adam Peters, I might be willing to play ball a little bit on this stuff. And for all we know, he is willing to play ball on some of this stuff. And Terry's camp is like, no, I want this guaranteed, or like, no, 30 isn't enough. I want 34 or 33 or 32 and a half, what Garrett Wilson got, whatever. But at the end of the day, the precedent for 30-year-old 30-plus-year-old receivers. And by the way, this extension, again, doesn't kick in until next year. Going well for him is not good. And so one of the other potential outcomes here is there is Bill Barnwell wrote about this at ESPN.com. Basically, you take some of the dead money, the void money from next year, you convert that into salary, some of the signing bonus money into salary. You're able to guarantee a little bit more money now for Terry and say, hey, we're going to up your base salary for this year. You get to save face because you get some new money, and then we'll negotiate after the season. And that's a pretty common outcome. That's actually, I think, what Jamar did last year is they did that. And then obviously he signed the record-breaking deal in the offseason. That went well for Jamar because he went on and won the Triple Crown. If you're Terry, you better have an amazing season, because if you don't have as good of a season as you did last year, where you set your career high for touchdowns by a mile, then you probably lose negotiating power. And we'll see, obviously, how that goes. But you also might be willing to play that game, because if, for instance, Laramie Tunsil is playing hardball and the Commanders feel like they have to franchise tag Tunsil, you might get to free agency. So a lot of factors here. Very complicated. But hopefully you have a chance to understand all of that a little bit better with a little help from some visual aid there. And thanks to the folks at Spotrac for having a contract management tool. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, your calls at 301-230-0980. 5 o'clock hour, we're talking about the RFK story with Mark Seagraves from NBC4. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. We're live on YouTube at the Team 980. Lively chat today, as you would expect. We'll talk about the RFK news coming up in just a little bit with Mark Seagraves, who was in the room when City Council passed the deal to get the Commanders back to RFK. That is done and dusted, all but official. There is one more vote. We'll get into all the details with Seagraves coming up, but the big one was today, and it went in the Commanders' favor. Right now, though, your calls, 301-230-0980 is the phone number, 301-230-0980. Talking Terry McLaurin until then, so we'll keep the calls rolling through 5 o'clock, 301-230-0980. Let's start off things with Sean. Sean, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
How's it going? Man, long-time listener, all the time. Live down here in Florida, Miami.
Oh, nice, man. Appreciate you checking in. What you got for me on Terry, and thanks for your long-time listening.
The Micah Parsons going on a trade request. What's up? Let's trade him up.
I thought this might come up at some point today. To be honest, like, if the Cowboys had not already traded for DK Metcalf, like, this is the kind of thing where if I was Adam Peters, I would call Jerry Jones and just be like, how stupid are you? Of course, I wouldn't phrase it that way to his face, but that's basically the question I would be asking. And Sean, all jokes aside, appreciate the call. Thanks. When we talk about, like, just pay Terry, and folks are saying that, and, like, there's a part of me that is like that too, because emotionally I'm like, yeah, man, just pay him. Like, whatever Terry wants, like, Terry should get, because Terry's been a model citizen and he's been awesome, and I'm just a huge Terry McLaurin fan. And, like, on a personal level, so are Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and everybody else in that front office and Josh Harris in ownership. But, like, this is a salary cap league, and you're also not looking to just give people money. Like, it is a business. It's professional. It's work. You don't just give people money. When you look at next year's cap, like, they have a lot of space. What if Micah Parsons is serious about not playing in Dallas anymore? What if he's able to finagle his way out? We know this would be the number one place he wants to go, because he loves Dan Quinn. There is nobody Micah Parsons would rather play for in the entire league than Dan Quinn. And so if all of a sudden next year, instead of, they have a bunch of years until they have to pay anybody, and Jaden Daniels rookie contract, they're trying to figure out how to do a $40 million a year deal for Mike, or year. They're trying to do a $40 million per year deal. That's what he said in English for Micah Parsons. That does change the equation a little bit. That's why you have to be diligent. Certainly you want to pay your guys that deserve it, but you don't want to pay them over market value willy-nilly, because eventually you will want to spend that extra willy-nilly money on something significant, and there is nothing more significant, no one more significant in the NFL right now on the defensive side of the ball than Micah Parsons. Now, of course, the Commanders, if you want to play like mega 3D chess here, could the Commanders trade McLaurin to have extra draft capital to go after Parsons? Yes, but I think that's probably a little too NBA braining it, because I don't know that the Cowboys would trade Parsons in the division, assuming that that's how that ends, if they do wind up trading him. And it's too much, like 2025 has still got to be the goal, because, like, think about it, if you're Von Miller and you just signed here thinking, like, I want to win a Super Bowl, how would you feel if you were, if you were Von Miller, how would you feel about signing here and then they trade Terry? Like, I'd be pretty ticked. It's just not the right move for the 2025 Commanders. So unless you know Micah's coming here, you have the other trade lined up, and it's basically a 3-team deal, like, that's a no for me. Let's go to Mark in Largo. 301-230-0980 is the number. Mark, I thought I was going to have a nice, easy Friday, but go ahead.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good,
How you
Mark.
doing? Welcome back. It's great to hear you back, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm with you. I think Adam loves Terry, and I'm a big Adam Peters fan. I'm also a Terry McLaurin fan. It doesn't seem that way because I've been trashing Adam I just think Adam made a mistake and not getting ahead of it. But I do owe you an apology. I do think Terry needs to get a more mature agent. You've warmed me onto that side. I think if he had a more mature, I think if he had the agent that Jalen Hurts had, I think this would have been done 6 months ago. I really do. I think if he would have had Nicole, I forget her last name, but she's very good. Very good.
Yeah, Nicole Lynch.
McLaurin had her.
Maybe the best agent in the entire league.
Nicole Lynch, yes. If he would have had her, this would have been done 6 months ago. Because I've seen her and how she works. She works very well with the Eagles. And I'm looking at what Bubba did yesterday and thinking about that. It just came down to me. I am a Terry fan, but his agent, it just seems like he's a little too dramatizing to be an agent. It just seems like what they did yesterday. I thought that was a little dramatized. A little too much. And I agree. I don't think they're going to get a trade. I think they're going to get something done this weekend, hopefully. But definitely before next Friday, they have to get it done. But look, Terry needs to get better representation. He needs to get more mature representation to deal with these GMs in the league. I truly believe that.
Yeah,
great to have you back, buddy.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Look, I think that there's something to that. I really wish I knew what exactly Terry wanted here and what his agent wanted. Because if they want the big splashy headline and what they really want is their own DK Metcalf deal, like I laid out in the last segment, complete with, here's how the money would lay out and here's how DK's money lays out, then I'm more open to that because it's not a real deal. But I think the Commanders are well, we don't want to give you this fake final year just to have the money inflate. We're not doing that. We're not having that hanging over our head and your head, and we don't want to go through this ugly mess in a couple of years. No, we would like to give you a deal that maybe is a real, we'll even guarantee, some money into the third year because it scales down and we'll pay you a decent amount the next 2 years, but then the money starts to scale down because your production's going to scale down. And I know the analytical models are tough because analytical models are just models. They're a conglomerate of data as opposed to, and it's the best that we have. But if you look at some of the ones Neil Greenberg did one in the Washington Post, and the amount of production that you get based off statistical production is not close to $30 million for 30-plus-year-old receivers. And it declines every single year. The number of 1,000-yard seasons by players 30 years or older in the last decade plus, or maybe even ever, is 16. It's extraordinarily rare for receivers on this side of 30, even ones that have huge years when they are 30 or 31, hit a cliff. Julio Jones had a massive season. I think in his age 30 season, it was 1,500 yards. And I don't think he ever topped 1,000 again because injuries start to stack up. You start to lose a step at a position where speed is essential, and especially if you're a guy like McLaurin, who your speed is your superpower. It's just you go, and especially if you're a guy like Terry who doesn't get great separation and you rely on contested catches, you're relying on the speed that you have just to get any window at all. Nevertheless, what happens if guys can run with you? It's a tough sell. And I get why the Commanders are in it. I also get Terry's point that he's I barely played my first years at Ohio State. I don't have the mileage or the hits on my body. I've been incredibly durable. But Julio Jones was pretty durable. He played through a bunch of stuff, but Terry's played through stuff. That's the NFL. And so I kind of get all sides here. And I really wish I just understood what's the most important number on the page. If I pull up Spotrac or I pull up Over the Cap and I am looking at average annual value, total value, guaranteed at signing, practical guarantees. If I'm looking at those numbers, which one matters the most to Terry / his representation? Which one matters the most to the Commanders? And how far apart are they on those? Because all we keep hearing about is the AAV number. the average annual value, that they're somewhere between $10 and $5 million per year apart, let's say. I've heard numbers thrown around in like the Sutton range of 23, 24 million that the Commanders are offering. I think Stephen A had something today. However, he got his information. It's closer to 27, 28. I've talked to people that think it should, like the correct number is somewhere between 28 and 30. And then there's, all this reporting out of Terry's, or of rumblings out of Terry's camp that he's looking for at least the 32.5 that Wilson got, if not the 33 that DK got, if not more than the 33 that DK got, which means you're talking about 34 or 35. That number.
Kevin Sheehan breaks down the Burgundy.
My bad.
980 and the Odyssey app.
The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and on YouTube at the Team 980. You can also listen to the show now on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio as well. The podcast, if you miss any of it, just search The Hoffman Show wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify included. You might have noticed the last segment came to a bit of an abrupt end. Anthony, you're managing a lot of stuff in there because apparently while I was gone, the air conditioning broke.
Yeah, it's been a long last couple of days. And, last segment, there's a lot. You guys probably can't hear it, but in my studio, there's a lot of noises. So
thankfully, the mics aren't picking it up when you're on the air. But, yeah, you said you're answering the phones. 2, you got multiple fans going. 3, like you can't think straight because you're hot.
Yeah.
And so I was like getting ready to slam home a point, and next thing I know, the commercials are playing because you heard a dramatic pause and you thought I was done talking.
Yeah, I heard some silence and I was like, "Oh, is this my cue?" And I didn't have the screen up because I had the call screener up. So I was like, "Man, it's a lot going on."
There's some pretty funny comments in the YouTube chat because, the YouTube, like, they saw it happen and they saw my face as opposed to folks on the radio just heard, like, it sounded like I missed a hard out. Like, this, it just ended.
Yeah.
Where was it? Someone goes, the Terry contract performance is affecting studio performance. Something like that.
Something like that.
Jeff goes, I heard that, Anthony. We all did.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Michael says, Terry contract is affecting studio performance.
Yeah. Matt,
whose screen name is Matt Loser. This is why live shows are the best.
And, like, I'll be better from here on out, guys.
Look, guys, we're live.
Give me some grace.
We're live. Anthony's dealing in the studio that's like 86 degrees.
Man.
Your boy has left him out to dry for almost 2 weeks. And we're doing our best. We'll talk to Mark Seagraves coming up in just a few minutes on the RFK side of things. But for now, we keep rolling on the phones. 301-230-0980. Talking Terry McLaurin with you. Kevin's in Virginia. Kevin, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. A comment and a question.
Sure.
Terry's trade request seems a little desperate. They're not going to trade him to a Super Bowl contender. I mean, they'll probably trade him to a bottom feeder and help these bad teams. They're not going to give up a bunch of picks and pay him $35 million a year in most cases. His best shot at a Super Bowl is staying with the Commanders, and he might not care about that. But he's not going to go to the Bills. He's not going to go to the Eagles. I doubt he even goes to, like, the Vikings. So I don't understand that tactic, frankly. And the question I have is, how much do the Players Association and the owners play into this? The Players Association are saying, get as much as you can. The owners are saying, hold the line. Does that have any impact on what's going on here?
To your first point, yes, that's all true. Like, I think the Patriots are the team that a lot of people have said, like, hey, they've got a desperate need for receiver. They've got cap space. The Colts were another interesting one I saw. Barnwell put that on ESPN.com. And maybe you could get like a Michael Pittman or someone in return. Like that's an interesting, at least if you're the Commanders side of it, because you need to replace him now. Because you're also trying to be a Super Bowl contender. But I think, Kevin, on your larger point, like, or your question, like, yes, it has something to do with it, but also that's just each side's general operating procedure. Like, of course, the owners don't want to pay money and the players want to get money. Like, that's business. If I'm negotiating a contract, I want to get as much as I can for me. And I also, the company that I'm negotiating with wants to not pay me any more than I am worth. Now, hopefully I've done enough to say my worth is worth X based off the market. But this is the very bizarre world that the NFL, exists in and pro sports exists in, is like, you have to decide, do I take less and help my team out? Because it's really like, of course, for Josh Harris, it's about the money. It's the cap space, or it's his cash. Like, there is real financial consideration if you're the owner paying the cash. But if you're the general manager, your bigger deal is the cap sheet. Like, you care about cap, and you are maybe willing to take certain structural things to make it work with the GM, that it works on their cap sheet. But, like, how much cash is my player getting? Because that's the number the player cares about. If you're a Terry McLaurin and you are trying to determine, like, what is important to me, like, is it winning a Super Bowl? Is it staying in DC? Like, how much value does that have versus just getting the most possible? Of course, there's going to be wiggle room within that. But I think the problem that we've run into here is the two sides are so far apart. You're not talking about a reasonable discount because, hey, Terry, if you're willing to take $1 million off here, I know it's $1 million. I know it's a lot of money. I'm really, really sorry about that. But we're going to need that $1 million to re-sign Laramie Tunsil next year, or to re-sign Deebo Samuel. Like, the cap number is what we're looking at, and, like, we need to find a little bit here and a little bit there. And if you can give us a little bit, we think we have a much better chance of Super Bowl. And if you become Super Bowl champion Terry McLaurin, then that's going to be worth more money to you. And by the way, you'll make up the cash because we'll stick a Super Bowl bonus in your contract that doesn't affect our cap. So there's, like, negotiations like that can happen if you're close, but they're not close. And that's where I think this is in trouble, is both sides have been so inflexible and they're so far away that you can't even have those reasonable discussions about other potential priorities because the baseline of some range of money is too wide at this point.
It just seems like Commanders have all the cards here, except for public opinion, which we'll get over it. And I think Kingsbury will make it work one way or the other. Yeah, you might take a hit on the Super Bowl. I still think with our quarterback, he would make it work. And they would still be a top 10 offense without him. I might be totally wrong. I might not understand the game correctly. But with his talent, I think he could have a lot of different receivers, sort of like Mahomes.
Yeah, Kevin, it's an interesting thought. I appreciate the call. And you're right. Terry doesn't have a lot of cards outside of public opinion, or if he is really willing to go there, which is to say, if you are willing to give up millions of dollars potentially in game check money, and his base is this year is over $15 million. So we're talking, what is that, like $800,000 a game before taxes? If you're willing to give up that much money, which I'm guessing he's not, because who is? And also he stopped holding out after a couple days of much less in fine money. And he's already given up, I think it's like $800,000 in fine money for missing the spring and the couple of days of training camp that he missed. If he's willing to go there, that becomes a different discussion. And it sounds like if you're Micah Parsons, like Micah Parsons sounds like he's ready to go there, talking about severing ties with the Cowboys. Now, if he gets paid $40 million per year, I think that Micah Parsons will probably put the star back on his head. And I think if they can get Terry to a number that is agreeable, like Terry will have no problem suiting up for Washington. And he's got great relationships with his teammates, the coaches, the whole deal. You know, the relationship with Adam is probably forever fractured on some level, but hopefully it's something they can laugh about later at a Super Bowl reunion party in 2050, whatever. But I think if you don't have Terry, you're looking at what Patrick Mahomes is now and what Josh Allen is now. And I don't want to put that on Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden is awesome. But remember, young Josh Allen had prime Stephon Diggs. Young Pat Mahomes had prime Tyreek Hill. Having a dude early in your career can help buoy yourself as a quarterback until you have the mental file to do what Josh Allen did last year with nobody at receiver. What Patrick Mahomes has done when Rashee Rice has been out, injured and or suspended since Tyreek Hill left, and they haven't really had. But even Mahomes has had Travis Kelce as a go-to, and prime Travis Kelce, not look, Zach Ertz is still Logan is amazed at what he's seeing from Ertz every day in training camp, but he's not prime Zach Ertz. So this offense should be a top 10 offense with Terry. I think you're much closer to 10 to 15 range potentially without him, probably still 10 to 12, but it's a significant hit. And with a defense that we don't know how good they're going to be, it's not what the Buffalo defense has been at its absolute best over the past bunch of years when they had Micah Hyde and all those dudes in the secondary and studs at linebacker, really good D-line play, Chris Jones and some of the guys that they've had defensively in Kansas City and Spags and everything. So it's a different situation. And I would be hesitant to say they're just going to be fine without Terry, but that doesn't mean you give in and pay him $34 million a year. You want who did get a deal done? The Commanders and D.C. City Council. Mark Seagraves was there, NBC4 chief reporter. We will talk to Seagraves about how the Commanders got it done and are on their way back to RFK next on The Hoffman Show. show, Team 980. Always live as well on the Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Of course, we're now also streaming on iHeartRadio and TuneIn as well. We've spent the first hour and change on the deal that did not get done, and that is the one for Terry McLaurin. But now to the deal that has. This one we have been waiting on for a long, long time. The Commanders are on the verge of being able to officially say we're going back to RFK. There is one more small hurdle to go, but Mark Seagraves was there as the biggest one was cleared. And Seagraves, of course, NBC4 chief investigative reporter, joins us now. Mark, is it? Would you say this is it? It's finally done. We did the thing. Where are we at today? How significant is it? We buying the cake? Are we lighting the candles? Give the audience an idea of just how much celebration should be happening.
Craig, thanks for having me. So this was a big deal. If you are in favor of bringing the team back and building a stadium in D.C., this is cause for celebration. This is a major milestone in that effort to do that. But it is not a done deal, as most things in politics never are. So there is still some work to be done as we move forward. But you needed 8 votes to get this passed today. They had 9 votes. There were only 3 no votes. So that's a big move in the right direction for supporters of this deal. When you had people like Charles Allen in Ward 6 who had been opposed to the deal voting yes today. So it is a major step forward, a positive step for the team and Mayor Bowser and anybody who supports bringing this team and a new stadium back to Washington. But there is still work to be done. So I definitely would not buy the cake and candles just yet. But I think you're very close to the goal line here.
So what is that work that's left to be done? I had seen some stuff that basically this, I think it's a September vote, is basically a formality. It sounds to you like there's more than that, but also formalities in politics can go sideways. So maybe it's just that. What work still has to be done here?
So the biggest issue that remains before the council, between the council and the team, are the incentives or the accountability around developing everything other than the stadium. Right? The team has been very clear. They want the stadium open by 2030, and that's great, and that's their timeline for that. But there's a lot of other things, because the team is the master developer, that they are going to be developing on that 180-acre parcel, including affordable housing, hotels, retail, mixed-use development. And right now, the legislation as written, while it does have a timeline that does call for some penalties that the team would have to pay to the city if they don't have those projects done in a timely fashion, those penalties don't kick in for another 28 years. Right. And so there are several council members, including council members who voted yes today, who said that's just not good enough. We want a better guarantee. We want more accountability. We want more penalties in place to ensure that the team is incentivized to actually do the other development on that parcel in a timely fashion as well. They don't want to be waiting 3 decades to get affordable housing and things like that. The team has said in testimony that they want to get that stuff done in a quick time fashion, and that some of this stuff will be done in 2030 ahead of schedule. But there's no mandate in the legislation or the contract that would be punitive to the team if they did not get that done. So that's what's going to be getting hashed out over the next several weeks. And a comparison for this morning's hearing started almost 2 hours late because there was still drama going on backstage, if you will. There were several council members who had, during the hearing earlier this week when the team's president was here, saying that they wanted more assurances that the team would use union labor to build the stadium, and not just the stadium, but also all of the other development, the housing, the hotels, all the mixed-use development that's going to go on that 180 acres that the team is responsible for. They wanted union labor to be a part of those contracts. And it was only the stadium that had a component mandating a certain percentage of union labor. So these negotiations between labor unions and the team and the council members were going on and literally until the last minute this morning. And finally, they settled on an agreement that was that the unions agreed to, the team agreed to, and the council agreed to, and that paved the way for two council members, Councilmember Janice Lewis-George and Councilmember Zachary Parker, to both vote yes. They had been considered swing votes, possible no votes up until then, but just minutes before the hearing did finally start, they announced that they had reached that deal, and that was going to open the door for those two council members to vote yes. Had they voted no, this would have failed because they needed 8 votes. They got 9 votes. So those 2 votes were critical today to getting this approved today. So those 3 and some other yes votes all expressed concerns about this lack of accountability, as they described it, for the team to pressure them to get all the other development done in faster than 30 years, which is the current timeline. And so all of that will be negotiated over, again, the next couple of weeks when they come back. So you'll see changes in that realm. I suspect those will probably be the only changes you'll see between now and then. And I would suspect that they will reach an agreement. The team president, Mark Klaus, has said repeatedly under testimony and when he's been interviewed that, they have no incentive to drag their feet on this because they're the developer and they don't make money until the development is done and open and generating revenue. So they want to get it done in a timely fashion as well. But what you'll see is having that codified in this legislation so that they can be legally binding on the team. So I suspect that will get done. And the next vote only needs 7 votes. So they can actually afford to lose a vote between now and September. Plus, in September, right now there are 12 council members sitting on the D.C. Council. By September, Councilmember-elect Trayon White from Ward 8 will be sworn back into office, so there will be 13 council members at that time. They only need 7. Councilmembers White, Trayon White's vote won't be a swing vote, won't be a pivotal vote. And again, they can afford to actually lose a vote between now and September. And that seems unlikely that would happen. Again, not a done deal. And then, of course, as with every law in D.C., unlike any other jurisdiction in the country, every law that the D.C. Council passes has to be approved by the United States Congress. And there's a 30-day review period for that, where they have an opportunity to kill the bill or just do nothing and let the bill go into effect. So you will see the vote in September, mid-September. The mayor will sign it right away. It'll go through its 30-day congressional review period, and then by mid-October it'll be law, and that will mean the team and the city can start doing the work, hiring the consultants, getting the architecture done, and laying the groundwork for building the stadium because, as you know, they want it open by 2030.
Right. So that mid-October is when you can start to you can buy the cake and light the candles and all that, sing your merry songs.
I'll tell you, September 17th, if you're looking for a date to order your cake, September 17th will be that day. I know Congress has weighed in on this, particularly Chairman Comer of the House Oversight Committee, who put a lot of pressure on D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson to get this vote done by August. Which he did, or he would intervene. So I don't see that Congress is going to do anything to step in and stop it. You've heard the president weigh in on social media about the name of the team and whatnot. Look, nothing that the president does surprises any of us anymore, but I think the team will be happy with this deal. Congress will be happy with this deal. And so I think that September 17th vote, once that clears, then you are free to move about the cabin and celebrate as much as you want. It's important to point out that there are thousands of D.C. residents and advocates and activists who very much oppose this deal. They think the council just last week voted on a multi-billion-dollar budget that took severe cuts to social services. 25,000 D.C. residents will lose their Medicaid coverage because of the budget. Nothing to do with the federal cuts to Medicaid. This is all Mayor Bowser's budget, where she cut Medicaid, cut a lot of other social services. So they're doing that at the same time they're putting $1 billion toward this stadium, and that has a lot of residents very upset and very unhappy with this vote. And we're headed into an election cycle next year where several of these council members and the mayor and the chairman their seats will be up. We don't even know if Mayor Bowser is going to run for re-election. She has not said yet. She's waiting, I believe, until after the second vote before she makes her announcement on her plans. But you have somebody like Matt Fruman, who is the council member for Ward 3, an area in the district which I would guess probably has more season ticket holders than anywhere else in the city because of the affluence of that neighborhood. And he voted no today. And that's something that he's going to have to explain to his constituents. You have Robert White, who wants to be mayor. He's going to run for mayor. And he was adamant about his no vote here. And he submitted 3 amendments today that all failed. But he had 3 amendments to this bill that he wanted to get passed. And he's planning on running for mayor next year. So all of this will play out in next year's elections for several of these council members. The mayoral race, Council Chairman Phil Mendelson will be up for re-election. You recall it, he was opposed to this for years. He was steadfast in no public dollars to his stadium, and he led the charge today and voted yes and got this across the finish line. So there will be ripple effects to this. I remind everybody, sports fans particularly will remember 20 years ago when we were in this same room and they were voting on whether or not to build a stadium for the Washington Nationals. The then chair of the council, Linda Kropp, at the last minute, midnight I was in the room when it happened, and she voted no, and the whole universe exploded after that because it killed the deal to build the stadium for the Nationals. And a week later, they came back. She switched her vote back and voted yes, and obviously we have a world champion Washington Nationals and a stadium there. But right after that, Linda Kropp ran for mayor and suffered the biggest defeat of any mayor in the history of Washington, D.C. She did not win one single precinct. As the Washington Post reported back then, not even Linda Kropp's neighbors voted for her in that election. And a lot of people believe some of that blowback. Look, she ran against Adrian Fenty, who was a very, very, very popular candidate in his first run for mayor, not so much in his second run, obviously, but at the time, very, very popular. But there was a lot of blowback for Linda Kropp after that no vote, even though she changed it to yes. So even if you were to see someone like Matt Fruman change his vote to yes in the second vote, he will always be known for his no vote today.
Mark Seagraves, NBC4, with us here on the Hoffman Show. I want to get back to kind of a larger picture question for folks that maybe haven't heard us talk about this over the summer or in the past. But why, Mark? You said like the remaining business here is about the Knott Stadium and the fact that the team is the developer for this entire 180-acre parcel of land. Why is that the case? Like, why not just let the team take care of the stadium and whether you hire someone else or let the city run it, however that would go down? Why are the Commanders being put in charge, and what is the precedent for that?
So the model of master developer is not something new to Washington, D.C., or really to any jurisdictions in the United States when doing big parcels of land. Look down at the Southwest waterfront, right, where you had P.F. Hoffman was the master developer for that deal. In this case, it just happens to be a football team who will clearly find a partner to actually do the construction work. They've hired Andy Van Horn as their vice president of real estate. He's noted for leading the charge on the Amazon headquarter development in Virginia that recently took place. And so it's not unusual to have a master developer for a parcel of this size and a massive development like this. And it actually helps to expedite the development and the process to have one quarter, how many sports analogies can I have? But just have one quarterback shepherding this effort who has a vested interest in this. And it sweetened the pot for the Commanders. It made it more attractive to them because it gives them more opportunity to make more money as that master developer. So that was the thinking behind that. And again, it's not unusual for this to happen in D.C. It's the first time a sports team has been the master developer, but they will bring in a partner. It's not like Josh Harris is going to be making these decisions on what hotel goes where and things like that. They'll have experts in that field and an actual developer come in and partner with them. But that is the reason that they went this route, because it's faster and it's more economical in many ways to do that in that way. I do want to point out, while we still have some time, one thing that I have been harping on that I think sports fans should really be watching through this deal, and that is personal seat licensing. that is something that Commanders fans have never had to deal with. We haven't had that in Washington, D.C. It is, for those who don't know, it is basically a fee that you have to pay up front in order to be able to buy your season tickets. It's like joining a country club. You pay an upfront fee to join the country club, and then you pay your dues every year, right? And so the team has been given the right to sell personal seat licenses by the city, because the city actually owns the stadium, will actually own the stadium. The team is going to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe as much as $500 million from those seat licensing agreements, and that's all going to be paid for by the fans. And this is going to mean that if you're a season ticket holder and you want to keep those seats or you want to buy season tickets, you are going to have to pay anywhere from thousands of dollars to tens of thousands of dollars for each seat, just for the right to pay for the actual ticket itself. This doesn't include the tickets. This is a fee on top of the cost of the tickets. And this is something that will be new here in D.C. No other sports team in D.C. has this. The Commanders don't have it currently out in Maryland. And again, when the Commanders say they're putting up $2.7 billion toward building the stadium, well, hundreds of millions of those dollars are actually coming from the fans who will buy those personal seat licenses. And one of the amendments that failed today was Robert White wanted to tax those sales, and that failed. So it's definitely something to watch, and people haven't been paying a lot of attention to it now because the excitement or the despair has just been about the expenditure of all this money and bringing the team and whatnot. But once this deal is done and season ticket holders, current or future, start thinking about buying their tickets to the Washington Commanders, it is going to be far more expensive than what it is right now. And so start saving your pennies for that if that's what you're planning on doing. If you're looking forward to buying season tickets to the Washington Commanders at the RFK site, it's going to be far more expensive than the season tickets out in Prince George's County right now.
Mark Seagraves, NBC4, with us for another 4 or 5 minutes here. When you look at the bill that passed today, Mark, what are some of the biggest changes between it and what the mayor negotiated with the team? And ultimately, if I ask you to put an analyst hat on here and give your opinion, like, are those changes good for D.C.?
Well, look, the council members who voted yes, particularly council members like Mendelson and Charles Allen, who had been no votes, will tell you that they negotiated a much better deal than what the mayor did. And pointing to some of that is the tax revenue, where that will go. A lot of the tax revenue that was going to stay at the stadium site will now go into DC's general fund and can be used for things like education and public safety. There are parking lot revenue. Before, in the mayor's deal, all the parking lot revenue, no matter what day of the week it was going to go to the team. Now the team will only get the parking lot revenue when there are stadium events there. But if people use those parking lots on non-stadium days to go to, whatever events will be happening peripheral in that area, or to the hotels or to the restaurants or to the shopping that will be there, that revenue will go to the city. And they also changed the way that they're financing this deal. The mayor actually wanted to borrow far more money than they actually needed so that she would have extra money on hand. Think of it in terms of if you buy your house and you borrow more money than the cost of the house because you want to have some extra money to buy a car or do improvements or whatever. A lot of people do that and just wrap it into that one loan. The mayor wanted to do that, and the council said, no, we're just going to let you borrow the exact amount of money you need to build the stadium, and that's going to save DC taxpayers money. So I think it's hard to argue. I don't think anybody would argue that the council made it financially a better deal than what the mayor had first proposed. But again, just to be balanced on this, it is still more than $1 billion of DC taxpayer money going to fund a stadium for a billionaire team owner at a time when the council just passed one of the most devastating budgets in city history with massive cuts to social services, including, as I said before, 25,000 people getting kicked off Medicaid. Now, they'll have other healthcare options the city will provide, but there are a lot of people who make some very valid criticisms of this deal, particularly the timing of this deal, given the economy. But Mayor Bowser has made the point that the district's economy has shifted. the district can no longer count and rely on the federal government being the biggest industry in Washington, D.C., now that the Trump administration and the Doge economy has come to town. And so her plan is to shift to a sports and entertainment-based economy. And that's why you saw them invest $500 million into keeping the Wizards and Capitals and rebuilding Cap One Arena downtown. That's why you're seeing this deal with the team. And the mayor very much is banking on sports and entertainment filling the void that the loss of federal workers has created in the district's budget.
I guess that leaves a final question of this, Mark. Can that work? Because the economists who study the stadium stuff all hate it. Your Andy Zimbalist, et cetera, of the world. I think Zimbalist is much more fair than some others who just live to destroy every stadium deal and think that sports should be played, I don't know where, on Mars or something. But when you look at these stadiums, they typically are seen by economists, whatever that's worth, as bad investments for cities, things that don't actually generate the kind of revenue that some of the government-funded studies would suggest. So as Bowser is trying to do this, and you have been reporting on this for a long time, the stadium deal, but also this version of it, have you found people that you respect that agree with the premise that doing this, ultimately, while it is a rough look politically right now for all the reasons that you said, can be a really productive and good way in the long term to reshape the District of Columbia?
Well, let me compare it to the two previous developments, right? Go way back to Abe Pollin and the Washington Wizards and Capitals. When they closed Capitol Center down and they built the Verizon Center, whatever was originally, NCI Center when it was originally built. And Abe Pollin did that with all his own money, right? There was no district subsidy to build that arena downtown. Now, there was a lot of peripheral subsidies that paid off in the long term, like tax breaks and things like that turned out to be very beneficial to Mr. Pollin and now to Mr. Leonsis. But that definitely jump-started the revitalization of Chinatown. You can't deny that. You could argue, and I think you'd be correct to say, that revitalization would have happened anyway as the economy grew, but it was accelerated because of that. The same exact argument with the Nats ballpark in Audi Field, where their proximity downtown along the waterfront has really sparked that revitalization down there. Now, that was already underway when the federal Department of Transportation located down there, and you got that big development that started spawning a lot of housing and other peripheral mixed-use development down there. So I do think the evidence is correct, that the experts are correct that it's not the only way to generate these economic revivals and renewals in these areas, but it certainly does. We've seen it help, right? We've seen it accelerated here in D.C. in those two examples that I just gave you. But look, the district's chief financial officer, the reason that they needed 8 votes and not 7 today is because the district's chief financial officer issued a report in recent weeks saying that these tax breaks that the city is giving to the team in order to entice them here are not necessary to the team's benefit to actually make a profit and come here. And that was called a negative TAFA report, a tax abatement finance analysis report, and it was negative. It said hey, in the DC's chief financial officer, who's an independent agency of the district government, he determined in his own analysis that those tax breaks weren't necessary, and so that's why they needed a supermajority rather than just a simple majority. So, there's a lot of data and a lot of stuff from people who are much smarter than I am on this, who say, these government subsidies are not necessarily needed. And, we've seen other, not very many, but there have been teams who have built stadiums on their own without public subsidies. And this is certainly one of the largest public subsidies that the country has seen for a sports team. And I would just say I think the team is very happy that this is getting done now and will be done by mid-September. Because imagine, if you will, if the council had delayed this vote until, say, October, when they come back from their recess. And by that team, and I don't want to jinx anybody, but by that time, the team was 0-3 in the next season. I mean, everybody, there's so much momentum. I mean, people are still talking about that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary, right? Going to the playoffs and all that. All that momentum is feeding this frenzy to get the team here. Having this same conversation, this same vote, if this was a losing team, might take a very different tone. And so I think there was a lot of energy to try to get this done fast for a lot of different reasons. Mayor Bowser needs to make a decision on whether she's going to run again. They want to get it done before the next season starts. Obviously, 2030 is a critical year because they want to be open for a year so that they can compete for things like FIFA World Cup and other big events. So there was a lot of incentive to get this done as quickly as possible. And in fact, they took that critical step today, and we'll see in a matter of weeks the final vote. And it's hard to imagine that it fails. It'll change between now and then, but given how many votes they had today, I think it's a fair bet to say that they'll have 7 votes that they need come September 17th.
Mark Seagraves covering it all for NBC4 or NBCWashington.com. Mark, appreciate your time as always, not only today, but throughout this entire process. You've been great with this, and I really appreciate it.
Craig, I love coming on. I really appreciate you guys having me. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Mark. Mark Seagraves with us here on the Hoffman Show. Reaction to that when we get back, and then more on the McLaurin negotiations and the Parsons situation in the 6 o'clock hour here on the Team 980. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're also on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and on YouTube at the Team 980. We'll get back to some of the Terry McLaurin talk, including some sound from John Keim this morning on the Junkies coming up at 6 o'clock. We also get into the Micah Parsons situation, and then we'll leave you a little bit of take command as well in the final hour of the show. Anthony, would you rather hear the 53? We did a full 53 projection on our most recent show. Would you rather hear the offense or the defense at 6:30?
I think I'd rather probably hear the defense.
I think that was the direction I was leaning as well. So we'll go defense at 6:30 here on the show. But the RFK Stadium vote today is obviously an enormous step. It's probably the biggest hurdle that the team had to cross. In fact, they are celebrating like this thing is over. I just saw this a few moments ago on social media from the Commanders. Today's approval by the council is transformational for DC and brings the Commanders back to our spiritual home. Like many fans, RFK was the site of memories that fueled my love for this team and this city. Now we're closer than ever to reigniting that energy for a new generation. And the statement is from Josh Harris, not just from the team. We're incredibly grateful to the mayor and the council throughout this process for their leadership and guidance. This is a historic moment. This project is about more than delivering a world-class stadium worthy of our players, fans, and the region. It's about revitalizing a critical part of our city, creating thousands of jobs, and unlocking long-term economic benefits for the district. We look forward to working with our fans, residents, community leaders, and elected officials to deliver on this vision. I think the thing that's great about this, and the thing that I think does separate it from other stadium projects that often do get poo-pooed by these economists and like people who, these economists, like these are economists, like they're very, very smart people who have spent their lives studying this stuff. I don't want to poo-poo their expertise, but like a lot of the criticism from economists is you don't need the stadium to revitalize the neighborhood. For instance, if in Navy Yard, instead of a stadium and restaurants and bars and the Harris Teeter, so you get a grocery store and whatever else you want to put around the DOT, Department of Transportation. And obviously that's a pretty unique DC thing to have like an enormous government building in. But if you had just built those restaurants and the apartments around them, you don't need the baseball stadium, right? So the city will be like, oh, well, there's X amount of economic value that's generated in that region, and the city or the stadium is at the center of it. And that's how they justify the stadium. And you don't need the stadium to get that. In fact, they will tell you you will actually generate more tax revenue for the city. People will spend more money and thus get taxed for it on things like food and groceries, etc., rent, if you actually don't have a baseball stadium, because it makes it harder to live there. In some ways, it makes it more expensive. But like it reduces the amount of housing because they have such large footprints. So like the total you would get for the city, not to mention a lot of the like, there's a lot of money spent at the stadium. Yeah, but a lot of these stadiums come with enormous tax breaks. So you don't need it. And so it's a false comparison. I think the difference in the RFK Stadium site, beyond all the cool football emotional stuff, right? And that stuff has value. To pretend like it doesn't is silly. Like it's the Washington Commanders. It should be in Washington, not the Washington region, not the DMV. It should be in Washington, D.C. Personal opinion, hot take. But because this land was locked under federal lock and key for so long and was just sitting there, I don't think this is a false choice. If there was an opportunity to unlock this campus, the RFK 180 acres, without a stadium, I think it would be a much harder fight. But they've been trying for 30 years with and without the stadium to get this land. And this is also why, I think there's a day to debate the PSLs and like some of the details here, especially among sports fans. Like, it's okay I'm not like pro give billionaires the money by any stretch of the imagination, But they also don't have to lose everything in this when they put in a lot to get this done. And I think this isn't a wide-ranging thought of mine on all stadium projects all the time, everywhere. But for this one, considering this involved lobbying a somewhat hostile federal government in a very bizarre political environment where you have a extraordinarily conservative GOP Congress member in James Comer partnering with the Democratic mayor of the District of Columbia. So you have a true bipartisan, like opposite ends of the political spectrum coming together to be like, this is the right play. And Josh Harris and Mark Ine and Mitchell Rales and Magic Johnson, whoever else was involved in the lobbying campaign, putting in that labor and paying for that labor, like, I actually think that this is probably the best thing the city could hope for, realistically, and to try to do the alternate game of like, oh, but they could do this without the stadium is, I think, just not based in reality. I think Bowser did an outstanding job of making that case, and I think it resonated with a lot of people, including some of the council members. And then it was on them to make the best deal possible for DC, and I think they did that to the extent that they could. And I think that's kind of how we get to where we are today. So with that, oh, look, Linnell's here. What do you want? Why are you popping by? You want me? You want to talk to me about stuff? On the air or off the air? Both?
He said both. Oh, you're good at this.
Yeah. Well, he held up two fingers and mouthed both, so I could see that. We can do a Linnell bit next. We were going to talk about the Terry situation, and you and I were texting a little bit last night about it. So is that what you want to talk about? Yeah. Thumbs up. Okay. Linnell's going to talk about Terry with me. He's missed me so much. I've been gone for basically 2 weeks, and he's been crying in the studio. Oh, maybe that was sweat because it's 80 degrees in the studio. We'll talk about the Terry situation with Linnell next here on the Hoffman Show. All right, Linnell's going to join us here in a second. He's finishing up his updates over on 106.7 The Fan, and then is going to pop on and talk about Terry McLaurin. This morning on the Sports Junkies, John Keim, ESPN.com, was the guest, and Keim gave his prediction for how the Terry McLaurin situation ends with the Commanders.
If a deal gets done, I think the most I could see it at right now would be like 28. But that's a guess, not report. So I'll be clear right with that.
Right.
But I don't, I just don't see it getting it. Right now, it'd be hard for me to see getting above that. If they really wanted to get there, they could have done that already. But then it's a matter of, on McLaurin side, will you go down to that number? That's the other question. But I think like I said, there's been no movement. Both sides are pretty strong on what they believe the number is. Or should be.
So this is where I actually am the most scared, Anthony, because I think that the Commanders will come up maybe as high as 30. I think 28. But again, we talked at the start of the show, and we're going to put this up on demand on YouTube over the weekend as well. I showed and displayed through the DK Metcalf contract, and then we built one with Terry where and Linnell is with us now, too, for those watching on YouTube, by the way. Linnell, just because of the camera setups and the way the studios are arranged right now, Linnell is going to be a disembodied voice today. So what I'm scared of is that the Commanders are actually going to get to 30, and Terry's still going to say no, because his agency seems to be pushing for this DK Metcalf 33 or higher number, and that is a no-go. Like, that's just too much. But the other thing that I wonder about is if you look at DK's deal, or if you look at like Tyreek Hill's deal, which has been restructured and extended, like Tyreek Hill right now has not this year, not next year, I think the year after. No, I think it is this upcoming year, 2026. So after this year, has like a $51 million cap hit. Tyreek Hill's getting cut. Like, Tyreek Hill's absolutely getting cut by the Dolphins, or they will completely restructure that contract and he will lose money. He's not counting $51 million on the cap next year at age 33. Like, it's just not happening. So if cosmetically you need to move some things around and give him a fake final year with a stupid cap hit that'll make his agent stop yapping and give him what he wants, or Terry's side to be like, I'm a $30 million receiver, and realistically it's the same as Metcalf, or it functionally is a $28 million deal, then I think that's probably a win for everybody. I just don't know. And that, to me, that's why I think there's room for Adam Peters to get there in the end, is you can just chunk dumb fake money into the end of a deal and make the average go up while saying that none of it's guaranteed, and we know in the back of our head he's never going to get it. But Terry's still got to, like, it's got to be a number that still is agreeable, and there's only so far Peters should and will be willing to go with that. So that's kind of where I'm at with it after the trade request yesterday. Linnell, where are you at with this whole situation at this point?
So when it first broke, I'll peel the curtain back a little bit. I was just starting overtime. Grant and Danny weren't even finished transitioning out of the studio. So Grant wanted to, hop on with me, and I, honestly downplayed it at first. And I'm now that I've had like 24 hours to stew on it, I'm still going to downplay it. Like, this is a part of the negotiation. Like, I fully expected a trade request the entire time. The wrinkle in all of this that I continue to be stumped by is the fact that he's on PUP. Like, I was under the belief, and after talking to some people, that like maybe him being on PUP, this is pure speculation, by the way, maybe him being on PUP is a way for him to, like, not look bad in terms of, like, to the fans and things of that nature. At first I was thinking, well, is it a way for him to not get fined? But he's not going to get fined because he's in the building, and that's really all you need to do in order to not get fined is report. So I don't know. The one thing that's been fishy about all of this is everyone seems to believe that this ankle injury is like a sham and it's not a real thing. There's just so much gray area and stuff that we don't know about this entire negotiation that is, like, crazy to me. What I do feel is this, like, Terry is clearly upset. Terry felt disrespected, and he said as much out at the Eastern's automotive shoot. And I think the lack of communication between the two sides and the lack of clarity about whether or not they want him here long term is kind of what's, aided his frustration. Now, him coming out and signing autographs every day, like that's like the little bit of leverage that he has. And I think last night was like Terry's final attempt to slam the gavel and go, boom, I'm serious. Because a trade request is, kind of a leverage play. But at the end of the day, I think we all know that Washington is not at all motivated to move Terry McLaurin.
Of course not.
They're pushing all their chips into the middle this year. They don't want to trade him. I wonder how messy he's willing to have it get, though. That's the thing I feel like we're underscoring about the whole situation is like, Terry's he's a smart dude. He is a faith-driven dude. And if he really does feel disrespected by the team, I can see a situation where he's like, nah, bro, I'm just not rocking.
Yeah, I mean, I could see some level of that. I also think he's competitive. And,
right.
Eventually, because one of the other options that's at play that I don't think has been talked about enough, because in some ways it's the most likely outcome, but Bill Barnwell wrote about this today at ESPN.com, is they guarantee him a little bit more money this year and say, fine, you want to bet on yourself? Let's talk in the offseason. And I could see Terry. Now, would his agent shut that down immediately and that offer never even gets to Terry? Maybe. It's on the agent to be intermediary there. But, I could see Adam being like, fine, we'll give you an extra $3 million this year. And there's ways to move some of the, he's got a void year on the current deal. And I think you're allowed to convert some of that money into salary and guarantee it. So that could potentially bring the cap number down next year that's already existing. I think that's a real thing. The way I read Barnwell's column, I might have misread that. So I apologize if I did. But point being, they can give him more money without giving him an extension. So if they do that and then say bet on yourself, that's a stupid bet for Terry to make, bluntly, because he's going to be a year older. Now you're not negotiating as a 29, soon-to-be 30-year-old. You're a 30, soon-to-be 31-year-old. Now you might be able to actually hit the open market because if Laramie Tunsil is also a free agent after the year, and depending on how quickly and how well that deal goes, do the Commanders have to use your franchise tag there, and do they see that as a potential escape route to get to the market? Maybe. But I think if Terry can get 28 per year, and with a decent amount of guarantees over the next 3 years, that's the most guaranteed money he's going to get. And he should probably take that. I don't fault him for trying to get as much as he can. But, man, if he can get $54, $60 million guaranteed, he should just do that because that's the wise financial thing to do.
And I'm at a point right now where, yesterday with the request, to me, it's like him for the first time saying, okay, my money and me being compensated is more important to me than being here in D.C. And if that's, genuinely how he feels and he's motivated to try and hit the market, whether it's next year by way of what you just said, then I could see it going that way as well. And we're never going to really find out the true answers to this because this is the new version of the Commanders and their front office, and they're keeping things very close to the vest. Everything that's leaked, it's leaked very intentionally on their behalf. I am just wondering where the relationship stands between the two parties right now. It just doesn't seem like things are in a good spot.
Oh, I mean, yes. Linnell,
but
you spend enough time on the football
though.
therapy couch that you can really read that relationship to film.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
but I'm wondering, is
you.
it irreparable? Is it at a point of no return?
But here's the thing, right? This is why, amongst many other reasons, you have a GM and a head coach who are different people.
Right.
Because if Terry is mad at Adam Peters, eventually will they probably, if they're winning football games and they get a deal done, will it be different? Yes. Will they get over it? Yeah. I mean, Adam is never going to feel any type of way differently about Terry because that's the job of a general manager there's a level of, I don't want to say coldness, but there's a level of acceptance that you have to have as a front office executive when you're talking about players and money and all that kind of stuff. Terry, as the player, he probably will feel a certain way about Adam Peters for the rest of his career life. And maybe eventually he looks back and he's like, you know what? I understood. And to an extent, even in his comments, I think he does understand the team's side. He just disagrees with it. But he and DQ seem to have a good relationship still. He and his teammates clearly have great relationships. So, the people that you're with every day on the football field are different than the people in the front office, and that is by design. And that allows you to, when you sign the deal and come back, to not feel a certain way about the franchise We're about to talk about the Micah thing. I wonder if that's a little different because Jerry is so synonymous with the Cowboys, and also Jerry talks all the time and his foot stays in his mouth. But like, once this gets done, we won't hear again from Adam Peters till at least the trade deadline, if not after the season. So
once
like, it's
it
not
gets
like
done, that's just that's my thing here. Like I don't know. Throughout the entirety of this process, like I've long felt like this could drag out and get to the point where it gets messy and he's no longer here. And I know that's not what the Commanders want. But the more and more we go through this, like at first I didn't think Terry.
But here's the thing about the trade: what incentive do they have to trade him? And
the distraction. Do they want to just rid themselves of a distraction?
I don't care about the distraction. If I'm them, I do not care about it right now because we are trying to win a Super Bowl. I think at the end we can get this done, and we can't get in return in a trade anything that's going to help us get closer to a Super Bowl. Right. We just can't. Like it's August. Even if you were to say like one of the teams that was thrown out by Barnwell was the Colts. Let's say they can get a third rounder in Michael Pittman from the Colts. Pittman's a good player. He's not Terry. He's a good player, but he doesn't know their system. He has no rapport with Jaden Daniels. He'd be coming in way behind. And you're taking a significant step back to what? Gain a third-round pick and get rid of a distraction? Is that worth it? When you could play more hardball, it's a distraction for the rest of training camp. I don't think he's going to sit out games. And then he ultimately signs or decides to play out the season. Like, I would rather go that option.
I guess this is me playing devil's advocate because, like, I get that they're all in for this year, like, but they don't have to be all in for this year. Like, obviously, you're going to go into each season trying to, do the very best that you can, but it's not like if they don't reach the Super Bowl this year that their window is closed.
No, okay, so then what's it worth to you? If I'm the Patriots and I call you Adam Linnell Willingham Peters and I say, I'll give you a second for Terry, are you taking it? That could be the 35th pick in the draft. Like, I don't think New England's going to be that good.
Well, sheesh, Craig, they ain't going to be that bad now, Craig.
Someone's got to be bad.
That's true. I don't know if they'll be that tomorrow, but I get your overall point. Like, what does the package look like? I think from Washington's perspective, they're probably going to try to force a team to overpay.
Of course.
And if you're the team acquiring Terry McLaurin, you're not going to be inclined to overpay, quote unquote, because you got to give him a hefty,
and by the way,
extension
they're going to have to give him the same. Like, he's not going to go to a new team and be like, okay, I'll take 27
right.
now.
That would be stupid if you did that. But yeah, it's all messy, Kirk. I spent 3 hours talking about this, 6.5 hours, yesterday talking about this, and like I'm at a point where I keep trying to see it from both sides, and you do solo radio yourself, so you get playing both sides of the argument and trying to give the audience, the best stuff from both sides of the coin.
And there's valid points on both sides of this. It's not like a game or an act.
That's why I'm like so torn by all of this, because we've taken calls, I'm sure you have too, where people are like, oh, I hate Terry now, or oh, Adam Peters sucks now. I don't feel that way about either of the two parties. I still love them both equally. I just know that this is a difficult negotiation. I just want it to end with Terry getting a deal and us being the best version of ourselves. But if Adam Peters and company do feel like, hey, look, man, we're just not budging off of the number, I trust them, because what's the phrase that I coined? We're at the mercy of the evaluator.
Right, sure. And
point blank.
They're at the mercy of their analytics, which are going to tell them that a 30-plus receiver is going to have declining value and all that. And Terry's like, well, I'm not going to decline. And it's like, well, we can't know that.
Right.
But here's the thing that I would say, like, where you and something you just said, and Adam, and despite the trade request, what I think in his heart of hearts Terry feels, everyone wants this to end with Terry signing a deal with the Commanders. And eventually that's got to be elevated to the top of this and say, okay, I'm here, you're here. What's in the middle? Can we make that work? And again, to go back to where I started with this, which is, of course, the dorkiest possible place of like, if you need to, as Adam Peters, to manipulate the cap numbers and put a stupid final year on the deal that's completely non-guaranteed, that Terry, in your heart of hearts, you know if you're Adam Peters, that dude is never seeing that money. But it
don't
gets
you think
the
Terry
average
on the same
to 30.
coin knows that too?
If he does, then like he hasn't looked, or if he, I mean, sure, but like then he gets to win the headline. He gets to say I'm a $30 million receiver, which apparently he cares about more than the guaranteed money based off all the reports, because we keep hearing about AAV. Like that's the part I don't understand is if I am Terry and I am 29, I am trying to, like, the number I want to beat DK at is not 132, 33 AAV. I want to beat 60. Right. 60 is the amount of guaranteed money, which for DK was all guaranteed at signing, that he gets. I want 61. And I think it's not that, like, I don't care if it's 2 years, whatever, or 3 years, 93 years, 83 years, whatever. As long as in the first 2 years, I'm getting 60 plus. That's all I care about. Or over 3 years, I'm getting 60 plus. But it's all guaranteed at signing. That's what I would care about. But clearly, I think the status and it goes back to what Terry talked about. He sees the AAV number kind of as the respect part, and for him, it's not about money; it's about respect and
value. Yeah,
I'm like, if you want fake money that you'll never see that is worth some amount of respect to you, fine. I'd want the money, but that's just me. Linnell, you get to go home now. You don't have to do an overtime show tonight.
Yeah, it's great. I'll be out there tomorrow. I can't wait. Dan Quinn's going to address the media before practice, and I
wonder what he'll be asked about.
I'm sure him and Sean have been going over the lines all afternoon. That's what he's going to say tomorrow.
Yeah, that's an Adam question. I'm just going to focus on the guys that are here. That's an easy one.
That was good, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Linnell, thank you.
Welcome back, man.
Thank you, sir.
You, brother.
Thank you. Linnell Willingham, everybody, host of Overtime on 106.7 The Fan, and sometimes the host of this show when I disappear for a month. Okay, when we get back, is Micah Parsons seriously done in Dallas? We'll discuss next. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980 on the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio 2. The more I look at receiver contracts, man, it's just like they all have huge fake numbers at the end. Ayuk's, Tyreek's, DK's. And so maybe it winds up getting to 30 because of that. And if that's the case and it's all and the numbers are fake, then fine. But, nasty. Not as nasty as it is in Dallas, though. Micah Parsons releasing a long. I love a Apple iPhone note talking about, and I'll give Micah credit. He spilled exactly the beans. I feel like it's. We now know that Diana Rossini was talking directly to Micah Parsons because Diana's reporting was spot on here that apparently Micah and Jerry Jones had some conversations in the spring that Jerry was like, these are the negotiations, these are the deal. And Micah's like, my agent will be in touch. And then Jerry and the Cowboys refused to talk to Micah's agent, which is absolutely insane behavior. Absolutely unprofessional, amateur hour BS behavior by the Cowboys organization, if that's true, which is what Micah Parsons is saying has happened. And Micah's like, that's so far beyond disrespectful that I'm done. I'm not playing for you anymore. I want to trade. There's basically no precedent for a trade here. And I do think that much like Myles Garrett was done in Cleveland and many others have said that they want out of their situations. $40 million a year tends to fix those types of things. And I think this will get done in Dallas. And maybe this is Micah, saying like, hey, Jerry, you want to play the publicity game your way? But I think the difference in like Terry's situation and Micah's is the disrespect Terry feels is purely behind the scenes contract numbers wise. Jerry Jones has said a bunch of dumb stuff in the media. They're not even engaging on talks. They refused until like today, I guess, to talk to his agent. Like, this is real, like, not standard issue professional disrespect based off of contract offers that all of us have dealt with when we get a number and we're like, what is that? This is next level. And the problem for Micah is he just doesn't have a ton of recourse. He's got the same amount of leverage as Terry does. And in some ways, he has less because he hasn't signed his big contract yet. Like, this is the one that gets him paid. But, man, this is a nasty situation in Dallas. And I wonder how far Micah Parsons is willing to go with it. Because the other thing, too, is, like, because this is the end of Micah's rookie deal, if he misses game checks, it's not as expensive as if Terry misses game checks. Terry right now is on the 18th best receiver contract in the league, still, based off his last deal. Micah's on a rookie deal. That's a different amount of sacrifice. And I wonder if that's a relevant plot point.
My thing is with Jerry, he can't even get Micah Parsons' name right. He's calling him Michael Parson. Like, he just continues to, like, disrespect him. He's taking shots at him. But I think we all knew that there was going to be a point in time where what Jerry paid Dak, what he paid CD, and now what he sort of kind of has to pay Micah was all going to, conflict in a sense. But also this is probably what Jerry does. He likes to dominate the headlines. And I think, a deal will probably get done. And he's just playing hardball right now for some reason.
But why?
Or being weird.
Because, like, that's the thing with Jerry is, like, he plays hardball and then gives up the whole thing.
September. Hey, look, the week before, we will get a Micah Parsons extension. No
Probably.
questions.
Probably. I hope
That's what Jerry does, though. He likes.
Hope we get a Terry one first.
I hope so too. But nah, we had Doc on, and Doc was just saying, like, Jerry loves, to dominate the headlines year in, year out. If we're not talking about the Cowboys, he finds a way to, get everyone, talking. And
I hope this is when it catches up with him because, like, you just shouldn't be able to do bad business and then keep getting to do business. Like, eventually there's got to – and there already have been repercussions, right? Like, some of the roster choices they've had to make are because they keep screwing up these deals.
Yep.
Like, Micah tried to give them a discount. Micah was probably going to sign for, like, 35 early on, and his agent was telling him to wait, according to what Micah said today, and his agent was like, wait until like the Myles Garrett, the TJ Watt gets done. Now those guys are making 40 and the market's changed, right? If they had just signed him to 35 and whatever, and like the Cowboys didn't even want to talk.
Nope.
Like they refused. This is, by the way, on the opposite end of the spectrum is the Eagles. They always get it done early. Always. And, I wonder if the Commanders could have gotten something done early. It seems like Terry was more in the Terry's agent was more in like the let's wait camp, and it's gotten more expensive. But the problem is Terry's, agent has Terry put in the wrong aisle price-wise, according to the team and, according to what we know, possibly like in a major way. Like, bro, you ain't getting JJ money. So yeah, that's that. Wrap up the show next. Commanders defense. Some interesting position battles. Logan Paulson and I broke them down on Take Command. We'll let you hear a little 53-man roster projection on the defensive side next. The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. We're also streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. All those places. You can also find the Take Command podcast. We're on the most recent episode. Logan and I reviewed practice and then got into a 53-man roster projection. We did the offense first and then the defense, which sounded a little something like this. Take Command podcast. Logan Paulson there. Craig Hoffman here. 53-man roster projection. To the defense we go. And Logan, last year they kept 9/10 on the D-line, the slash being Dante Fowler. This year that role is Von Miller's. So do you want to put, I guess the first question I would like to ask you about the defense is, are we playing their game and putting Von Miller at outside linebacker? Or are we counting him as a defensive lineman? The answer does not really matter.
I'd count him as a defensive lineman personally. I mean, just because I think that's going to fit his utilization. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, I've got 10 on my initial list that I did a couple weeks ago on the radio show. Those 10 are Von Miller, if we're counting him as a D lineman, Daron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton, Dorrance Armstrong, Dedrick Wise, Jalen Holmes, Eddie Goldman, Cleveland Ferrell, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. That leaves off some really good players, including Jacob Martin, who I think I've read multiple places had an excellent camp. So as the guy that's been out there every day, where are you at on this defensive line group? What changes do we want to make, if any?
Yeah, I think for sure, like, knock him out of the park. Let's just go with those guys first. Are Armstrong, Payne, Kinlaw, Wise has had an excellent training camp so far. I think Ferrell has had an excellent training camp, so that gets you to 5. Newton, because he was a draft pick last year, I think he's ascending. I think those 6 guys feel like...
And then Vaughn.
So those 7 guys feel like absolute locks. And then it's kind of stylistically like what you're looking for those last 2 spots, right? Because we're keeping 9 or we're keeping 10 here.
I think you keep 10. Like, I just think there's too many good players to not. And I don't know how many of these really good players you're going to get to practice squad.
Yeah. So,
like a Jalen Holmes, I think you could. But I also think there's a chance that dude gets signed because he was real good last year in real NFL games. Yeah.
So of the guys that you've got on here, I would say for sure Goldman. And I'd say Jacob Martin makes it for me right now, which leaves 1 spot. So is that Jean-Baptiste or is that Holmes for you?
Oh, man. Dan's talked very highly of Baptiste. He was a draft pick. He's a little younger, I think, although I actually don't know because he was an old draft pick. So let me look this up real quick. Javonte Jean-Baptiste is 25. Jalen Holmes... Okay, he is 29, so he is significantly older. If that's the case, then I'm going Javonte Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah, and I think that's where you get to. Because as much as I want to keep Holmes on the roster, and I think he gives you flexibility, like an old GM told me one time, like if anyone shows any signs of pass rush, you don't cut them. And Jacob Martin's done a good job of that. So I think that you feel good about Ferrell, you feel good about Wise, kind of as your first and second down pair. I think you hope Holmes gets the practice squad, so if you need to bring him up, you can. And I think you've let that ride, and again, like, that's hard for me because I really like Holmes. I thought he added a ton of value last year. I think he's had a good camp so far, but sometimes, like, if they like a young guy and they want to see him develop, because again, Baptiste did some really good things last year in season also. So I don't want to, marginalize that, but these are this is a tough position group because I think there's a lot of good football players here now.
Yeah, the whole let's build through the trenches. Good job. Now you're cutting guys that, like Jalen Holmes, if he has to run 2-3 weeks with the ones in rotation for a guy, like, you're not dead in the water. Right. And like, you're cutting that guy. And we even talk about Carl Davis, Sheldon Day, guys that were really good for this team in stretches last year.
Yeah.
And so I think the hope is you get some of those, maybe one of those guys as a veteran to practice squad. But like, they're just not even in the running because of the depth that you have on this team. And it's funny because, again, this is the position where there's been most consternation about the Commanders nationally. And I get it. Like, there's no legit star edge rusher in 2025 amongst this group. You're hoping that Vaughn is some level of that, but this is 2025, not 2018, where he's defensive player of the year. I think that was the year he won it. So yeah, like, this is a tough group. This is a really tough group, which is why I think you have to go 10.
Yeah, and I think all those guys deserve it. I think some guys that we haven't talked about, or we just kind of mentioned passively, like, they probably deserve it in some way too, but it's just a deep group. And I think the free agent guys that they've brought in have done what they're supposed to do and have looked good doing it. And I think that's a testament to to Adam Peterson.
His whole staff. All right, linebacker. Last year they kept 5. It was Fowler, Wagner, they're Dante Fowler. We counted, so there's really only 4 true linebackers: Wagner, Luvu, Michael Walker, and then Dominique Hampton, who was a redshirt. So there was like 3 dudes. And then you had Nick Bellore, who they signed. It was either during week 1 or I think they actually signed him after week 1, after he got cut by Seattle. So this year, if we count Bellore as a linebacker, I've got 6.
6 counting Bellore.
I've got 6 counting Bellore.
And
Wagner, Luvu,
5 last year, right? Well, 4. Really.
Yeah. Well, and then the other caveat with last year is McGee went to IR or PUP or whatever it was. So like he was around. The problem is, or the good thing is he's around for real this year as of we're doing this. Hopefully that stays. And then you have, some of the younger guys. So you have Wagner, Luvu, McGee, Hampton, Medrano, and then Bellore.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those groups that I think is going to be kind of up to the wire in terms of competition because, I think they've all had pretty good days. And so what are the question marks you have about, I think McGee is as lock as you're going to get. I think Bellore is pretty close to a lock. I wouldn't put him here with this group. I put him with the specialist, but you know what I mean? Like he's that type of guy.
Right.
And then it comes down to Hampton and Medrano, and I think both of them have flashed at camp. Both of them have made explosive plays. I think the thing I want to see, and it's going to be absolutely critical for both these guys, is how well they tackle in the preseason game. Like that is going to be maybe the most important thing for them in terms of saying, I deserve to be on the roster. They've both been good teams value. They're both big and fast. So there's not a lot to dislike. They're green. There's developmental arcs for both of them. But how do you tackle and can you play linebacker against some of the better offensive linemen in the world when it comes to the NFL? And today, for example, I think Kane's had a great couple of days here. But just one of those plays that jumps out at you. He goes to fit the running back. It's Chris Rodriguez. He's a big, powerful dude, kind of gets spun to the ground on the tackle. And you're like, and again, that's one play. So I'm not saying he's had a hard time tackling or he hasn't been doing a good job, because I think he's been doing a great job. But that kind of sticks in your brain a little bit. It's like, has he fixed that issue from college yet? And so I want to see him tackle. And this, much like the running back, I think those last 2 spots, whether it's 6 or whether it's 5 or whether it's 4, is going to be decided on how well dudes are tackling in preseason games.
For sure. So we'll find out a lot more starting next week. But for right now, I don't even understand how this math is working. I feel like we've gone heavy at certain positions, and yet we have. But this is again, why I guess the 8 versus 9 O line, that lets you keep Medrano and Hampton versus, okay, we have to try to get one of those guys to practice squad, and we keep a 9th. So that's that. The other position, we're going to go lighter than last year. I mean, I put it in air quotes. They are lighter than last year, but keeping 10 DBs is pretty standard. Last year, they kept 11. This year, I've got just 10. Lattimore, Amos, Sanderstill, Jones, and Noah Igbenogany at corner. And then Will Harris, Quan Martin, Jeremy Reeves, Tyler Owens, Percy Butler at safety. You mentioned a couple of other names that have played really well, some UDFAs, both this year and last year, but I actually think that if everybody stays healthy, this is pretty straightforward, and these are the 10.
Yeah, I mean this group has been definitely exceeded expectation 100%. So again, as much as I think some of those young guys have played well and flashed a little bit, some guys on teams Kevon Seymour had a great rep on teams today, Ben Nichols.
That's a guy that I did want to ask about because Standig had him on.
Yeah, so he's big, he's long, he did a great job in that vice drill they did today. Ben Nichols has done a good job in terms of flashing at times, interception and OTAs, a couple PBUs last couple. But again, I just think when you look at how well these guys have played that you have on your list, none of them have played themselves out of this position, out of this flagpole position. And in some ways, they've just solidified themselves each and every day. And so barring them looking disastrous up in New England, I think this is the group, as much as I've talked about how I think they've done a great job finding secondary UDFAs, guys that have done a good job in camp. But the guys you mentioned there, let's go through the list one more time just to kind of reiterate. I think Percy Butler's been excellent. Tyler Owens has been excellent. Reeves offensively or defensively and on special teams has been excellent. Martin looks like he's ready for the next step. Harris has been that chess piece in the back end. Noah Igbenogany, man, I've been super impressed with him inside and outside. just his ball skills seem to have improved. Jones is the pro's pro. And then Amos, Sanderstill, Lattimore, I've talked about them almost on every single show. So it's like, who you gonna upset there? It doesn't seem like anybody.
Well, the question would then be like, is Seymour ahead of a guy like Medrano or Hampton?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like that,
team's value. Yep.
Yeah. And this is where the battles between your fourth running back, your fourth tight end, your ninth offensive lineman, your sixth linebacker, your 11th deep, like wide receiver 6. Like, what if they just decide like none of these? What if the answer is none of them? Would you rather have Moore or Seymour? Like wide receiver 6 or DB 11, right. Which one would you rather have? Like that's the question you have. And part of that is informed by the players themselves head to head. That's the number one deciding factor. The next is like, who can we get to practice squad where we kind of get to keep both? What other options exist on the free agent market? Or do we think other teams are going to cut? Is there another guy? Because that's another factor too, right? Like we've referenced this 53 from last year, but like the 53 that got named on cutdown day wasn't the same 2 days later. And that 53 wasn't the same a week after that. Jamin Davis made the initial 53, got cut, then got brought back and elevated, and then eventually got cut again for good later in the season. So there's just a ton of movement that happens. You can only operate within like what you're seeing here. We know there's a bunch of stuff happening at other camps and, on other podcasts around the country and in other, written articles around the country, people are doing these 53s and saying like, oh my God, is that guy going to get to practice squad? And I'm sure that, there's people in the Commanders front office that are reading all of those articles to understand the landscape of who might be on the chopping block. And that can obviously affect things quite a bit as well. So it's impossible, but that's our 53 for right now. Just to recap, because there's nothing better for podcasting than reading 53 names, Logan. So you ready to go?
Are you going to read them all?
Sure.
No.
I bet you I can do it pretty quickly.
Okay. Here you
Daniels,
go.
Mariota, Robinson, Eckler, McNichols, Krosky Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, Ertz, Sinnott, Bates, Yankoff, McLaurin, Samuel, McCaffrey, Lane, Noah Brown, Chris Moore. Offensive line, Tunsil, Coleman, Biotish, Allegretti, Connerly, Wiley, Paul, and Scott. We see we're already at the defense, Logan. This ain't that bad. Von Miller, Deron Payne, Kinlaw, Newton, Armstrong, Wise, Martin, Goldman, Furl, John Baptiste, Wagner, Luvu, McGee, Hampton, Ballore, Medrano, and then Lattimore, Amos, Sanderstill, Jones, Igbenogany, Harris, Martin, Reeves, Owens, Butler, with, of course, how could we forget Tressway, Matt Gay, and Tyler Ott as your 3 specialists.
Perfect.
That's 53. And I didn't even count, Logan. I let the formula in the spreadsheet count for me. You laugh, but we get out here and we do a 54. People are going to let us know.
They'll be upset, yeah.
Want more from Craig and Logan? Subscribe now on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. More Hoffman Show next on the Team 980 and the free Odyssey app.
here on the Team 980. Anthony, right before we came back, said, I screwed up. What'd you do?
It's Friday, Craig.
Oh, I can barely remember because I have not been here. Anthony, we literally didn't have a chance to like catch up today. Like you and I texted a little bit while I was out. It was, almost 2 weeks, so I would hope so. I would tell anybody that was listening, like everything went great. The families I've had to take care of went great. So that was good. Now I'm back. Anthony, I know the part of how your week was spent was dying in the heat of the broken studio, which I'm telling you right now, either I'll see you Monday because it's fixed, or my ass gonna be sitting right here in air conditioning.
I hope it's fixed. I truly do.
I don't need to work in those conditions. You don't need to be working in them either, except for then we don't have a show. Like someone's got to hit the buttons.
Yeah, I mean, at least now we have fans. But the first 2 days, Craig, we did not have any fan.
And thankfully,
there's
also
no
it's
air.
It's not as hot outside either.
It felt like a dungeon in here, to be honest.
It was brutal upon return to DC. The heat, the humidity.
Yeah.
The storm yesterday was crazy. It looked like the rain was so thick it looked like hail. But yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, I was so sad. I was like, I had it in Q2.
Dang, that's a bad job out of you. That's okay. Let's see if we can get this right. It's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Set into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
If you missed any part of the show today, make sure you check it out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, YouTube at the Team 980. There's some visuals at the start of the show that are worth your time. There, we'll chop that up and get it on demand on Terry's contract as soon as we can. A little inspiration, and then maybe a little humor if you have time. Cam Ward asked about his work ethic at training camp and provided this very real-life answer. Did the number 1 overall pick.
I said yesterday, I've grown up, watched my dad wake up at 4:30 doing a job he didn't like. So, if I can't wake up early and do what I need to do for a job I do like, I shouldn't be playing football. And that goes for everybody in the locker room. If you can't have the expectation for yourself that you want to be whether a good or a great player and want to put the work in, I just think that's how it should go. I just think good things only come to those who work.
That's how players become great. There's a lot of other stuff that has to happen too. And look, let's be real. There's a lot of dudes in the NFL that got to the NFL based off their talent. They're happy to collect a check based off their talent and retire when they are told their services are no longer wanted. Or maybe then they start working at a different rate. But if you're going to be a number 1 overall pick at the quarterback position and work out, you better be wired like Cam Ward is wired. And I think in the draft process, that became very, very evident for the Titans and everyone else that, like, this dude was in a different class than all the other quarterbacks in this class for a lot of reasons, but that was one of them.
Yeah, some people's why also, indicate why and how they go about, some of their business. And, he probably is a guy that comes from humble beginnings, and I think sometimes that can be a huge motivational factor for, why guys move the way they move.
For sure, and he seems to be moving that way. Last but not least, Barack Obama's been making the podcast rounds, and the former president, this is a sports adjacent, which is why it's in Real Things, was asked this was actually a video from his My Brother's Keeper campaign, which he started, I believe, during his presidency with amongst help, those guys like Chris Paul. And so he was asked a question and gave an honest answer.
If you could relive one moment from your presidency, what would that be?
Well, for my 49th birthday, I organized my own little NBA All-Star game. Ron came, and D. Wade, and Derrick Rose, and Chris Paul. And so we had like 3 pros and 2 amateurs on each team. I hit a game winner, man. I hit a 3. I crossed over Chris. You acting like I'm lying. Chris Paul's a friend of mine. You want me to get him on the phone?
Chris Paul left a comment on that Instagram post and said, no video or it didn't happen, which means it definitely happened. Have a great weekend, y'all. We'll see you on Monday. Glad to be back here on the Hoffman Show.